Let's bring in New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, terrific to see you. We just need to remind the American people, if they've forgotten, that one of Biden's first acts as president was to send Congress a bill on amnesty that would cover every illegal immigrant here and then open the door for illegal migrants who had been deported under President Trump. That's really what's at play. Let in as many people as absolutely possible illegally.
Well, yes, and that's exactly what they continue to do. And the recent trip that Secretary Blinken and Secretary Mayorkas made to Mexico, they basically, if you read between the lines, said, let's get more amnesty, let's bring more people in, let's talk about giving more American tax dollar and resources to giving to these poor asylum seekers. You know, if you're truly an asylum seeker, you're going to come to a port of entry. You're not going to go climb over the wall or try to get around the wall or go in between where these ports of entry are. If you're sincerely an asylum seeker, you're going to go to a place where you're going to meet someone that's going to get you to asylum. You know, you're supposed to have a legitimate fear of persecution from your country of origin. This is all garbage. This is what the Democrats are doing. They're using these people. The cartels are, as you saw from the recent trip that the Republicans took to the border. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go on this particular trip. I've been there, though. I've seen this. It's even worse than last time I went. So we're talking about the cartels enriching themselves, making, you know, what, $32 million a week on human trafficking, drug trafficking. And who's paying for it? The American taxpayer. And who's paying to take care of these people? You know, when they get there, they have medical care, they get clothing, they get food, they get 24-hour care. And there's warehouses not only full of children. Remember the cages that supposedly President Trump created that actually President Obama created? Well, President Biden created warehouses full of children and also clothing, food, diapers, everything these people would need. Who are the vendors that are getting paid? Who are the vendors who are providing all that housing and the very expensive rooms and fancy hotels in New York City they're getting? It's all at our expense, and we're the fools for allowing this to continue to happen.
Claudia, good to see you. I think it's interesting. The negotiation that's happening in Congress right now is all telling what's happening at the border. So Joe Biden says, I want all this money for Ukraine to help them beat Russia. I want money for Israel. And you've said, listen, in exchange for that, all you have to do is secure the border. Joe Biden, even though he wants the money for Ukraine and Israel, he loves open borders more than he loves the money for these foreign allies to the U.S. So he's not going to close the border. He's so committed to making sure millions of Americans come across that border into this country. And what I can't figure out is why.
Yeah, I have the same question. It's like, okay, here's my cynical twist on this, Sean, and great to see you and Dagan, as always, and you guys do a wonderful job. I'm like, okay, they're bringing people in because they're going to get them registered to vote. They get their license in New York State. You know, illegal immigrants under the green light law get not just a license, but they get special status. You can't inquire as to their immigration status. But, you know, maybe it's to get them all to vote. And the Democrats know they got to take Donald Trump down every way they can for the coming election. Maybe it's for the vendors I just cited, all these people making money off of these immigrants, you know, whether it's vendors, whether it's the cartels, or is the Biden administration involved in the cartels? Who is making the money? And I know that you guys are talking about the bottom line, but maybe it has something to do with money also. And yet Joe Biden is so feckless. They really don't seem to care about American citizens when it comes to spending our money. So when they talk about government money, that's just our money. You know, taxes are our money. Everything's our money. And we are facing, you know, obviously fiscal problems. But here's a solution. How about reversing all those executive orders that Joe Biden took on his first day in office, getting rid of the policies that were working to deter people from coming across the border, to help our Customs and Border Patrol? And yet, what are they doing? Spending money to sue the state of Texas that is trying to protect their own border. They're doing everything they can to overturn everything President Trump did, partly because anything Trump has got to be overturned, but also what is their motivation? I have that same speculations, Sean. Any of those things, I guess, could be part of it or all of it.
Joe Biden wouldn't even have to revert to President Trump's policies. They would just have to use the expedited removal, the power that Congress handed out in 1996 to dissuade people from claiming asylum. But instead, it's catch and release, and it's more than 70% of catch and release. I digress, but it's going to bite. It's going to bite them in the backside because Mexican Americans, people who came here legally, more than 50% of the Border Patrol agents are Latino, mostly Mexican American.
Yeah. Well, it's not just money and all the things that we just described. Remember something, I represent the northern border of New York. 85% of the people on the terror watch list come across into the northern border of this country. It's close to New York City. That's where we had 19 terrorists take down our country, kill almost 3,000 Americans, whether it was in New York City, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, or the Pentagon, all with just being able to come across this border. Think about what is developing now where we are letting everyone across, people from over 130 countries. This isn't just the Southern Triangle countries that our borders are, our vice president tries to talk about. These are people that there are many of them coming to take advantage. And certainly, why wouldn't our foreign adversaries, China, all those other countries, why wouldn't they continue to send people here to spy on us, to find out what we're doing, to find out our weakness, to be there? We do nothing. And then we defang and defund our police as well, right, who are trying to keep us domestically safe.
Well, I would say they're trying to collapse the system. I think that's what they're trying to do. But I want to go to this because you served on the Financial Services Committee. You're now on Ways and Means. And I want to talk about the adversarial economic bloc known as BRICS. Effectively, it's doubled in size at the start of the new year, now including most notably Saudi Arabia. And I guess our concern is this going to be a threat to the United States dollar as the global reserve currency? And what does that mean for America?
Yeah, well, this certainly can be, Sean. And yes, BRICS, basically it was originally coined by a Goldman Sachs person, Brazil, Russia, China, and India, these huge countries trying to put together kind of a bolster against the United States' global dominance in trade and finance, the dollar being strong. I do think this is really concerning when you look at the countries that just joined in January 1st. 25% of the oil that comes from the Middle East is coming from countries that have already have joined on to this controversial group. And guess who's leading the charge? Russia, China, countries that are our adversaries that are involved either fueling or engaging hostility or wars with us. So I do think this is very concerning. And where's Joe Biden standing up to them? He's feckless when it comes to just about every foreign policy issue, whether it's dealing with our supporting Israel in the Middle East, standing up for our allies all across the world. He's very weak. And a lot of them probably are saying, where's the United States supposed to be the leader in finance, supposed to be the leader in defense, supposed to be a trusted ally? I don't think they're seeing Joe Biden that way. I think that's why you're seeing President Trump rising in the polls, someone who gained the respect. They may not have always liked him, but he was strong. He was a bold leader. He did what he said he was going to do. He kept his promises. And I think leaders around the world respected him. And I think that's why you're seeing Trump so dominant and so strong in the polls. He's a gladiator. That's what people want to see. We have a feckless, weak president. When you have the opportunity to put somebody strong in office, I think that's why even people who might not like his personality are very much looking for that type of strength and that.
Well, Joe Biden.
Yes, exactly.
Philosophy of peace through weakness. It's not working so well. Claudia Tenney, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for joining us on The Bottom Line. Appreciate it.